This topic of likability keeps coming up for me again. Well, not just for me, but I've been noticing it coming up, and I've been wanting to talk about it on here, and I've been wanting to get input from others. And basically, the question is around, what does it mean to be likable? Welcome to the Blueprint Breakers podcast. What is a blueprint breaker? If you live your life outside the typical traditional lifestyle blueprint, you are a blueprint breaker. We are here to start a conversation, to assemble resources, and to build a community. This podcast is for empowered women in midlife and beyond who are preparing for a powerful next era of life. My name is Amy A. Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for our conversations. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. To stay connected, up to date, and to receive all of our free resources and gifts along the way, join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. Is it different criteria to be likable as a woman than it is to be likable as a man? And I really wanted to explore that a little bit. Is likability important? Is it important to have people like you? The reason why this is coming up for me again is because of my current endeavors, because I've been spending the last 2 years putting myself out there on a personal level online through various social media channels, through this podcast, etc. And while I haven't been 1000% clear on where I hope this all leads, I've been exploring different avenues for how do I earn a living while pursuing these things that I'm passionate about. And many of the ideas that I come up with and many of the things that I'm working on requires a following, requires a response to content that I'm putting out there, reactions, input, thoughts, engagement, and just connecting with enough people that are interested in the topic and are committed to sort of, being part of the mission, etc. As many of you know, my mission is to promote the mantras that we have here at Blueprint Breakers, that there's more than one way to do life. There's no one path, and whichever path you're on, that doesn't mean you're any more or less happy or fulfilled. And there's no moral value placed on any particular path that you are on in life. And I am on a huge mission to get that word out there, especially now as the topic seems to be coming up in the wider scope in the political arena, et cetera. And so that's my mission. And as I embarked on this mission, I learned that many people that are in a similar phase of life or season of life are working at peeling back the layers and deprogramming themselves in order to find pure joy and fulfillment with where they are right now. So many of us in the same boat. So I really wanted to start with that, helping women like myself and in our, general age group and general season to really be able to do the work to find that joy, find that fulfillment, let go of the judgments, etc. And my hope is that it would trickle down the generations. If we can be good about ourselves and feel happy and content with who we are as people, it will snowball and it'll eventually get to all of the women in our lives, the men in our lives, the younger generations in our lives, all the way down to the children and the babies, so that hopefully generations to come, our young girls, our young women, don't have that same pressure as they're making their life's decisions. And so in trying to get this message out there, an old negative thought keeps coming up in the back of my, like this little negative, icky voice that I've been working on shutting down, just keeps saying, well, you're just not likable enough. You're not likable enough to attract enough people to hear your message. You have to be likable before people will even hear you. So that's the messaging, the negative self-talk that's like on repeat that I consistently work at facing. And so it's led me to really try to unpeel the layers And I started thinking about all the benefits that you get when you are likable. There's people out there that I see that are trying to do similar things to me, similar but different. And I find them very likable. They seem to just have, an aura about them that just pulls people in and attracts people to them. And people want to be around them. People want to connect with them. And therefore their mission, their purpose seems to be happening for them. And I see that and I'm like, oh, wow, well, that's a big benefit of being somebody who's just naturally likable. And as a result, I think about the roadblocks you have when you're not likable. If there's something inherently about you that turns people off, or some unspoken or intangible whatever that keeps people away, obviously that's going to lead to roadblocks. And so what am I saying? I don't want to ramble too much on this. Like, I've got notes on what I'm talking about, but I just sort of like talking points, and I don't want to get too crazy and off the wall here. But what I'm trying to say is I'm challenging the reality and the accuracy of all of these, this negative inner monologue that I have going on. And I've been calling people in and asking questions and trying to find out from other people how they feel about this topic. And so I put out the question a few different times in a bunch of different ways, my email newsletter, on Instagram, and my Facebook group, etc. I got a handful of responses back. And it was generally that, there was definitely some thoughts about how, well, I wanted to be likable when I was young, but I've let go of that desire. So there's definitely a couple people who feel like that's not so important. I had one friend mention, just be yourself. The only person that really needs to like you is you, which I 1,000% agree with. Another friend who says that now as an adult, she values respect more than likability, which I get. I've been in that place myself. So different responses to it and to what they consider likable. I had one friend on Instagram mention what she considers likable: someone who is relatable, funny, fun, grounded, cares about others, can be vulnerable but not weak, smart, intellectually curious. She said those were the first thoughts off the top of her head, which I absolutely agree with all of that. And I also have this thought that there's also some sort of, I don't know, just some sort of intangible thing that's in you or it's not in you. And the story that I tell myself about myself from the time that I was not from when I was a very young, when I was a very, very, very young child, I felt that I was likable. When I think back to 4-year-old Amy, happy, got along with others, enjoyed people, very upbeat. I was described as vivacious, happy, smiling, confident, as many young little girls are. And it started to change, probably as it does for most of us, around middle school, junior high. And that was when I started to get labels. I was a smart, intelligent girl who did well in school, and that was considered not a good thing. It was not a positive thing to be a smart girl. I was called a know-it-all, at times. So we know how that is. So I started to get negative labels put on me. And that was around the time that I started to have like conflicts with friends. I was considered quirky and weird. And I started to realize at that point, that's when I started to consider myself not likable. I didn't necessarily make any attempts to change to be likable. I mean, I'm sure sometimes I did to try to, quote, fit in. But I didn't care that I wasn't considered likable because I was smart, especially by boys. I just sort of embraced the fact that, oh well, they're not going to like me, but I liked me. And so it was all good. And this continued into high school, college. I struggled to fit in. I struggled to find my peer groups. I didn't become very good at choosing friendships until, I had a couple of good, wise friendship choices in college and started to get better in adulthood. But I never considered myself popular. I didn't consider myself, pretty enough, attractive enough, all of those things. And I know that that's I know that that's a very common experience that a lot of us have, but it led to this story that I've told myself that has felt like a truth and it's felt like a fact. That thing in me that says, oh, well, you just got that thing that you're just not likable. And so just deal with it and work around it, which is what I did. And the further I got into adulthood, the more solidified my view of myself was. And my perspective on how I assumed the world sees me. The world sees me as outspoken, going against the grain, not following the traditional blueprint, not doing what I was supposed to be doing. I didn't want a man who would not view me as an equal. And the men that I partnered with, if they were very intelligent, they were not thrilled about my level of intelligence and outspokenness. So I struggled to find the right partner for that. So the world viewed me as, one of those outspoken, smart, ambitious, career-driven women that is not considered attractive to men because of all those things and is not universally likable. That was what I told myself was how the world saw me. So what did I do about it? I didn't do anything about it. In my professional life, like some of the people that gave me feedback on this topic shared, I came to terms with professionally, I was, rising up the corporate ladder and had a reasonable amount of success and felt that I was respected for my accomplishments and my abilities and my skills. And over time, as I became better at my job, I let go of the need to be liked in the professional arena. And I just sort of accepted it. Now, what started happening is that what was growing inside me was a resentment. I resented that I was in a world that considered me not likable. I resented the world for viewing me that way. If I'm liking myself and if I feel good about what I bring to the table and how I'm moving in this world, why doesn't the world see the same thing that I do? Why doesn't the world appreciate me in the way that I appreciate myself? And I'm feeling myself get emotional on this. Oh, it sounds like that might be a good therapy topic. But anyway, so there's a resentment that grew between me and the world at large, and a resentment towards, I talked about those people out in the world, the people that just naturally attract us to them, the people that you want to see what they're doing, you want to hear what they're saying, you consider them great role models, you're just naturally attracted to them. I started to resent them because when I see people, even the most amazing people, I also see their flaws, I see their humanness, and I became either resentful or envious that the world universally likes them in spite of their humanness and flaws. And why not me? Why not me? And so I'm only very, very recently realizing that this has happened, by the way. It's been happening for years, but I've only recently been able to sort of put a name to it. And I'm sharing all this with you just in case there's any of you out there that have this same messaging going on a loop in your brain or in your heart or somewhere deep down. I suspect that there are, but I've been struggling to hear from you. I really would love to hear from you. Can you relate at all to what I'm talking about? Send me a message on social, send me an email, however way you want to reach out. I know that I'm not the only one, but I'd love to hear the nuances of perspectives and thoughts on this topic of being likable. So the questions that I'm trying to unravel, is likability important? I mean, I know that it is for the particular pursuits that I have right now with trying to create a following and trying to find customers or clients or even romantic relationships and friendships and things like that? Is it important? And are we tougher on women? So my experience came to a head in 2016. When Hillary Clinton lost the election, I took it very, very personally, and I went into a bit of a depression for a while after that, and not for political reasons. Yes, I was politically disappointed, et cetera, et cetera. I was worried about Trump, all those things. But for me, it was the world proof that women like me are universally unlikable. The more outspoken you are, the stronger you are. And in Hillary Clinton's case, I mean, she was a brilliant woman who was an excellent speaker and very well educated, and she just knew her shit, and she was just very outspoken and opinionated and fearless. She was fearless. She didn't care what people thought about her, and the world hates that about her. They called her shrill, and a lot of times they'd point to, they had reasons, tied to her husband, or reasons tied to political things that had happened, or rumors and all the conspiracies, all that kind of stuff. But it felt like it came down to who she is as a woman. And I took that as worldwide proof that I don't fit in the, women like me are not to be embraced and loved and admired and all the things. And now we're coming full circle again, as I'm seeing everything with our newest presidential candidate, Kamala, and seeing a lot of the same thing, like just the horrific things that they're saying about her, trying to use any relationship choices she's made in the past, or, really, just the disgusting things that they're talking about her. And it's mainly because how dare she be as outspoken. This whole thing about childless cat ladies that has come out of the VP candidate, all of that's happening out there. It's just a reminder of who's accepted and who's not, and why. My desire to help us, if I can't peel back the layers of this question of being likable, like if I can't peel back and reprogram myself into knowing that I am likable just because I am good enough. I am likable just for being me, just for being here. If I can't do that for myself, how are we going to get the world to see us any differently? I do see some progress being made, but it's like a one step forward, two or three steps back, because with everything that's happening now with the pushback to Kamala and this talk about women without children, that's just blowing me away. So if I was to normalize and neutralize the negative thought that I am inherently unlikable. All right, so let's think of this together. If we have that negative thought, I am inherently unlikable, universally unlikable, and or I'm just not universally likable. And that's just some sort of inherent thing that's in my DNA. Like, if I was to take that thought and neutralize it, is it true? Is it accurate? It's not. How can I speak for how every single person on the planet feels about me, or thinks of me, or has a perspective on me that's ridiculous, number one. And number two, I know for a fact there are people on this planet who like me, which contradicts the previous thought. So I invite you to do the same if you've got any of this going on in your head. If you've got any, and it comes up in different ways. I mean, the likability, every time I talk about being liked, it sounds like such a wimpy thing. It sounds like such a, it reminds me of Sally Field's famous Oscar acceptance speech. Oh, you like me. You really, really like me, which people loved to make fun of for many years because it seemed a little bit needy or whatever. In reality, it comes back to what my friend Wendy said when she responded to this question. And the only one who really needs to like you is you. And that's absolutely true. So peeling back those layers of letting go of what you think people need from you in order for you to be accepted, just letting that go and not letting the thought ring true and not letting the thought hold you back. So no matter how that thought comes up for you, whether it's, oh, I'm just not likable, or I don't have enough of this to do that. Because of this, I can't do that, or because, all those things that we tell ourselves, if we can just take a step back, question it, peel it apart, neutralize it. And as I've mentioned in previous conversations, the work is not a one and done. It's not easy. I don't unpeel the thought once. I don't deprogram the thought once. I have to do it over and over again. So if you need reminding of this, reach out to me and I will remind you every single day. Connect with me on Instagram. I'm at amypalmer.today. Love to have a conversation with you there, or send me an email, amy@amyapalmer.com. Thank you for listening, and let me know if you've got any thoughts on this. Thanks.